Good evening and welcome to the Fairfield City School District Board of Education meeting for September 5th, 2024. Mrs. Lane, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Begley.
Here.
Mrs. Birding Miller.
Present.
Mr. Clark.
Present.
Mrs. Gundram. Mr. Napier.
Here.
Mr. Clark, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Absolutely. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll jump right into presentations and resolutions.
Yes, Mr. Begley and members of the board, we do have one presentation this evening, and that is our annual open enrollment program presentation. So at this time, I will turn it over to Mr. Crapo.
All right, well, good evening, and thank you for having me tonight. We're excited to have this conversation because what it does is it shares the good message that we do in the district. Internally and for our department, it shares how many kids want to come to Fairfield, which is an amazing story to tell. And then it shows the benefits that we have within the open enrollment department of itself. Starting out, the general requirements and considerations. It is a very tight process, the open enrollment process that we have. To start with, we cannot increase staffing due to open enrollment. We cannot use artistic, academic, or athletic criteria for the selection process. We cannot limit students who are ESL or on an IEP unless programs are at capacity. Cannot exceed class size requirements. We cannot accept students who have been suspended for 10 consecutive days or expelled. Students are accepted on a first-come, first-served basis, and I'll get into that a little bit on the next slide. Current students who move out of the district are a priority in being accepted. The fees must be paid. Open enrollment may be revoked due to 12 unexcused absences, repeated or serious violations of code of conduct, including a 10-day suspension. Cannot create a racial imbalance. Our application timeline is very strict from the first Monday in May through the last Friday in May. And we're guided by the following policies on the screen. And the reason I go over that is there is a tight process. There's a lot of people involved, a lot of conversations that take place in regards to our open enrollment. We don't just accept anybody that comes through our doors. And once they're in our doors, we do have high expectations that they improve our Fairfield family. As far as the selection process goes, it is first come, first serve. You do have to hit that window in May. Applications are automatically time and date stamped when they do come in. And there's a priority list. First off, it's children of employees, followed by current Fairfield City School District students who've moved out of the district, so they were with us and then moved out for a reason but want to stay with us. Open enrolled students who have completed the previous year at Fairfield City School District, so that they were open enrolled last year and they want to be open enrolled again this year. Siblings of an open enrolled student, and then last, a new open enrolled student application. So it is it's a very detailed step to go through each of those pieces to make sure that we're following the process that we have. Timeline becomes an issue a lot of times for our open enrolled families. However, we do this to protect the just simply the nature of our Fairfield families. We want to make sure that on our first page, I stated all the rules of open enrollment. We can't increase class sizes. We don't increase teachers. We got to create. We can't create a racial imbalance. All of that, we need to know our current Fairfield students before we can accept future Fairfield students, open enrolled students. There is a little bit of history in this, and we have learned from history, and we do make changes as we go to improve the program. First year of open enrollment was 2012, 2013. I was a teacher here. Applications were received July 16th through August 10th, and the entire process was ran by the superintendent. And the assistant superintendent made all those decisions. That was a lot of work. We're talking hundreds of applications in the process, knowing kids, going through the nitty-gritty. And so we have learned from that. The second year, those dates were adjusted and renewals to apply April through May. Notifications were sent out 8/12, and the starting date of school was 8/21. So again, it was very close to the start of the school, but that goes back to we need to know who's going to come in our doors as Fairfield students before we elect open enrolled students. Currently, the enrollment is basically the month of May. The high school is notified as soon as possible, usually mid-June, followed by middle schools. This is primarily done for scheduling purposes and if they're part of an extracurricular that participates over the summer. So that does drive, we have football practice, soccer practice, volleyball. We have practices that take place over summer, and so if we can make the decision and they want to participate in extracurricular, they get that right as well. Elementary buildings are last because we're simply trying to figure out how many seats we have to offer. We never know kindergarten until school starts, how many kids are actually going to show up to kindergarten. The number is very unpredictable the younger the student is, and often cannot be made until very close to the start of the school year. And again, that goes back to protect Fairfield. We want to make sure we have spots. We want to make sure we're not increasing staff. We want to make sure that we're educating all the students that we can at the best of our ability. So that's why the timeline is the way it is. Getting into some data. On this page, you're going to see from 2018 through the current 2023-24 school year. As you go left to right, you see the number of students in open enrolled, money generated, money lost for students that go to another district. And then in the final column to the right, you're going to see the net money generated. And we are consistently in the positives by quite a bit. So it does help out Fairfield City Schools. And again, I go back to the students that are generating these funds for the district are students that do not get in trouble with suspensions, are not on attendance plans, coming to us with our chronic absenteeism issues, and have no fees. And so these students are doing their part, and it's generating some money for the Fairfield City School District. Attendance data, I've got this divided into two slides. This slide is 18 through 21. The bottom portion of each rectangle up there, you're going to see the attendance data comparing the non-open enrolled students versus the open enrolled students. As you go across, you'll see it's very consistent, but most often, well, it's flat out, it's very consistent. We're talking 0.1% difference if there is any between the two students. Moving on up to the current, 21 through 24. Again, it's very consistent across the board. That goes to prove, again, this presentation is to educate the community that open enrolled students are not hurting our attendance rate. Our student demographics, again, this is part of our selection process. We want to make sure that we're not creating a racial imbalance. The first slide talks about 18-19 through 2021. And as you go year to year, you'll see a very consistent data point. Second slide goes from 21 through last year. And again, it remains very consistent across the board.
If I could just make a comment, Matt, before you leave that slide. You know, every year, if you look at these slides, we often talk about economically disadvantaged students. And I think it's worth pointing out this evening, if you look at the trend in the last 3 years of the district. So remove the open enrollment conversation, and you see last 21-22, approximately 34% of our students were economically disadvantaged. 22-23, that jumped to 47.2, and last year, 23-24, it jumped to 58.3. And I think that's worth pointing out because I don't think the average citizen in Fairfield has an awareness that that percentage, that 58% of our students last year met that criteria for economically disadvantaged. And odds are, based on the trend data, that we will probably jump over 60% for the current school year, but we will not know that until a year from now. So I think that's worth pointing out to the community and to the board. So.
In 21, that was the COVID era. During that time, parents didn't have to fill out forms. Everybody got the free lunch, and so no one filled out the forms. That was an oddball a couple of years there. Numbers by grade. I like to put this one in here because it does, although we look at 200, 300 kids as a district, we need to divide it by grade, and 4 teachers or so per grade. We are really talking about a couple kids in a class. When you look at it that way, it's not a lot. It's also interesting to see the consistency over the years. As far as our students' GPA, I was able to get all 6 years on this slide. You will see as you go across that open enrolled quite often is higher than the Fairfield, our own students. Again, they're held to a standard. They have to perform well as part of their ability to become a Fairfield student. But again, this goes to educate the community that the open enrolled students that we do have, they are selected. And they are doing their job as far as their GPA. Student discipline. This is another one that we like to have in here to educate all parties involved. As we go through, I was able to get 3 years on this slide and 3 years on the next slide, but when you go across, you're going to be looking at the number of the percent of the incidences compared to the percent of students that make up the open enrollment. Quite often, it is very similar. They do not cause more of a disruption than Fairfield students. Again, if they do get suspended, 10 days or recommended for an expulsion, they are no longer allowed in the program. So this presentation and slideshow, first of all, this takes a lot of people to create this. We're talking a lot of numbers between GPAs, attendance, discipline, dollars. We're talking multiple departments, multiple people to create this slideshow. So I'd like to say thank you to everybody involved. This takes a month to gather all this information. We want to get it as accurate as possible. The selection process, we can talk to principals around the district, and it is a meeting, it is a discussion. They look at the data points very carefully because we want to make sure we're making a decision on who we're letting into our district. And then once they're in our district, our policies hold them to a very high standard. Again, this presentation is put together as an educational piece, but there's a lot of work behind the scenes to make sure we're doing it right every year. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Crapo. Questions, comments from the board?
I actually have a few questions. So I just wanted to refer back to the demographic slide. And so the reason why those were highlighted is because you were calling out that those were during the COVID numbers, and that's why they were, like, I think 2020 to 2021 was 11%
Yes.
for the district.
Yeah.
And so what constitute as the economically disadvantaged? Like, what criteria do we use to determine that?
There's a couple different ways, and Ms. Lane, if I misspeak. You can fill out a form. So obviously, if you are free and reduced lunch, and that's based on dollars, how much is your household income making, how many people are in your household. There's another one now that has adjusted where if you qualify for insurance, then you're automatically added. And so that's why you will see our number rise a little bit, because before, not everybody fills out the forms. Some people don't want to. For many different reasons, people don't always fill out the forms. Now, if they are getting various types of insurances, they are added to our number automatically. And what that does is it just benefits the kids. So now they do get that lunch and that breakfast, whether the families have filled out the form or not. So it usually comes down to a financial piece.
Gotcha. And my last question is, so we saw like the numbers of students accepted and things. How many students apply versus how many get accepted in usually each year, or at least like the last year or so?
We have that number back in the office, but I don't have it now.
I do apologize.
So I can't get it to you.
Other questions?
Great job, Mr. Crapo and the team that put this together. I know it's a lot of work, as you mentioned, but this is great transparency and great facts. You know, we talk a lot about being factual and being transparent to the community and to, you know, to families. And this, I believe, shows that. So thank you for that work. This is important for us to know and see because I personally have heard some chatter, you know, about the OEs. And it's not always the case. And this, I hear the chatter in a negative way. And this shows and proves that the facts are what they are and that it is a benefit to our district, and we are strict on how we choose and allow them to proceed through the school year in a positive way that affects our district in a positive way as well. So thank you for that. And you asked a question I was thinking about, which was the highlights, and I assumed that same thing, that it was from the COVID. But one thing you mentioned was like the insurance. Can you touch on? I know it's financial, but what's the insurance piece that you spoke of?
Government-issued insurance.
Public
Okay.
assistance,
All right.
basically.
Okay. That's what I thought. I just want to be clear. All right. Thank you. Great job.
Yeah, I think Mr. Clark hit on it. I think open enrollment comes with a stigma in the community, quite honestly, right? And there's always misconceptions about it. And as Mr. Clark was referring to, that's something that people come up and want to talk about. And over the last couple of years, through these presentations, I've learned the facts, and it's very helpful to talk to them about the fact that it is an application process, that it's not an automatic, that they can be removed if necessary. All of these things, that the attendance and that the grades and that the discipline are not any different. In fact, slightly better than the general population. So very helpful. Thank you for doing this again this year and for the team to put it together.
I got one thing. Is it possible to get this out to the public? Because very seldom does anyone watch this and there's no one in the crowd. Is there a way it could be put out so the public would understand it instead of just us trying to explain it to them?
We do post presentations on our website, and Gina can post this one along with the other ones that are posted.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And that helps board members and administrators and employees. The reason we do, that's why we put those out there, so that we can say to people, hey, if you want more information, you can go to our website and watch this presentation. You can see the slides. You can see the slides, or you can go to another website and actually watch the presentation.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's a good idea.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'll do something that says this presentation was given. If you want to look at the slides, they'll be here, I'll provide them.
Mhm.
Okay.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Crapo.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.